How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to talk about the new Ascendancies that are coming with the Affliction League. And most specifically, I wanted to talk about this Ascendancy here, Warlock of the Mists, and the potential that I see in it for specific builds. Most specifically, Boneshatter, which is the build that I plan on playing, and how you can be getting double damage on bosses with this mechanic. So if you see here, as part of the tree for Warlock, you get this grants level 20 Penance Mark skill. And what this Penance Mark skill does is it will curse an enemy, and when they are hit, they will spawn phantasms that are also going to be enemies. So it's basically giving you a monster that you can either chain off of, or you can melee splash off of, or you can splash off of itself. So the reason why you are going to be effectively getting double damage out of this with Boneshatter is that on Boneshatter, on your gloves, you have this strike skills target one additional nearby enemy, and Boneshatter itself has a AoE pulse here that hits when it stuns an enemy. The life on these phantasms is going to be extremely low, so you're going to be stunning them every single time you hit them. And with that, it means you're also going to be splashing that damage onto the boss. So every single attack you do, you're going to be hitting the boss, as well as hitting the phantasm, which is going to basically melee splash that damage back onto the boss, effectively giving you double damage. Because now, instead of hitting the boss only once for every single hit, you're going to be hitting them twice. Along with the Penance Mark skill itself, also as part of this tree, you are getting this ability here, Foul Pact, which is causing the phantasms from the mark to also give you additional flask charges. So this is going to give you basically infinite uptime on your flasks for bosses as well, because of how often Penance Mark is hitting with Boneshatter. So this is going to drive the bossing potential for the skill even higher than it was before. For some of the other things, we haven't been told what Summon Dark Effigy is going to do yet, but most likely this will be something that you'll also be throwing into the build. Ravenous is the one that what this does is it allows you to basically select a specific corpse type on the ground, and you can get a damage bonus against that specific monster type, as well as protection against that specific monster type. For the upper Elder bosses and the Uber bosses, these are going to be Eldritch type monsters. You'll have to buy these corpses in order to use them to get that bonus against them. But for everything else, whenever you're in a map, you're basically going to be hitting the pack once or killing the first pack. You're going to use your Blood Hunt skill or Ravenous skill here to get your bonus for the rest of the map, and then you're just going to basically power through along, and whatever bonus you get is going to match that specific skill. Some of the other curses or marks that you can get on this is going to be this Pacify skill here, which makes it to where the monsters will deal 0 damage while the curse is already expired by 60%. And along with that, them doing no damage, with Foul Pact, you are doing 20% extra damage against them the entire duration of the curse. And then for those who are playing minions, which isn't relevant to us for if you are playing Boneshatter, if you do use the Affliction Pact, which basically forces the minions into like minion instability, like it forcefully kills them, and then causes them to explode, then they will also have Onslaught as well, so they'll be getting some faster attacks before they blow up. The part of the tree that we realistically won't be touching on Boneshatter is going to be this Sanguimancy here. This is basically forcing blood magic on you without actually going into blood magic. So you'll typically just grab blood magic on top of this to stack it, because you're going to get you 10% more damage. And then you push it all the way down here into Crimson Power as well. There's going to be someone that will use this probably for something like Righteous Fire or something like that, in order to push to a really, really high amount of life, and then be able to really take advantage of that, possibly with using this Cannibalized Faith ability here, but that's most likely going to be something for like Reap or something like that, if someone ends up using this on there in order to get some added physical on there. But yeah, so far, what we're seeing with this, it is going to be really strong, especially with the Boneshatter build that I plan to be playing. I will be releasing a build guide video for this Boneshatter build tomorrow. This does use the Tainted Pack and Golden Rule setup on it. For this, it's basically very similar to Karn's version of the build, so if you want to check his video out, he has one, but his is definitely focused more for a hardcore playstyle. So the tree on the one that I have is definitely different, because it's focused more for softcore than it is for being hardcore. So we're pulling a little bit more damage out. We're actually focusing on Impale, and versus Karn's version is focused on more defenses and more survivability because of the fact that he's on hardcore. He can't have any mistakes happen. But for us, because we're on softcore, we can be greedy, so we're going to be greedy. If you aren't running the Warlock of the Mist setup here, which with this specific setup, it's probably going to be more focused towards bossing, then you do have two other choices for Boneshatter or for other builds. You can go with Warden of the Magi, which is going to give you tinctures, and these will give you some extra flask effect as well as really high uptime on your flasks, as well as give you these tinctures here, which have some really powerful abilities. Giving up a flask slot for these means that these are probably going to have to be really, really good if you're going to want to consider using them. But until we actually get the full list of what these tinctures are going to be, we're not really going to know whether or not these are going to be worth using, and especially comparing it going against a curse that's going to be giving us, double our damage against bosses. It's going to be really hard to compete with that, just because pretty much for every boss we're going to want to just basically slap that down and make sure we're killing the boss twice as fast. Like, you don't typically have any mapping issues with Boneshatter. It's just the bossing that gets a little slow sometimes. So with the new curse that you are getting with the Warlock of the Mists, it's really going to be hard to compete with this. The defenses that you're getting from Barkskin aren't really going to be relevant or aren't going to be worth using. Detect Evil, it's kind of niche and it's kind of fun, I guess, if you want it to be like Metamorph, where it's really easy to see where packs are and ensure that you're full clearing a map. You can run this. And then same with Oath of the Magi. Like, if you're not really socket starved, you can purposely leave sockets out of your boots in order to get some extra movement speed. Or you can run like an abyssal socket in your boots, something like that. But I really don't see the applications of these. Not for Boneshatter, at least. There's going to be some builds that aren't socket pressured that are really going to be able to take advantage of this. But for Boneshatter specifically, which is the circumstance I'm looking at most of these trees through, that's kind of where I see it being. The last tree is going to be Wildwood Primalist here, which uses charms. And these have some pretty varying abilities that you can get out of them. Some of them are looking very, very strong, such as the explosions here that you're going to see on something similar to like Obliteration Wand or to the Profane Bloom on Occultist. But realistically, I think these are probably going to be much harder to get than people think, or because they are tradable, they're going to be very expensive. So early on in the league, we might be starting on Warlock, and you might get to a point eventually where you actually have 3 really good charms, and then you end up swapping over to using this Wildwood Primalist tree, because the charms that you have are that good in order to basically justify willingly basically getting rid of the mark itself from Warlock tree, going into Wildwood Primalist, because the charms you have are really going to push it over the top. But we're going to have to wait and see again until we get the full list of charms, or kind of see the data mine information about what all mods can roll on charms. So because of that, I think Warlock of the Mist is pretty much going to end up being a lock on Boneshatter especially, or any other build that can effectively use these phantasms in order to get double boss damage or double damage against things. So the potential of this is really, really strong, on top of the other skill that we don't know what it does yet in Summon Dark Effigy here. I think it's going to end up being one of those things that's just going to have really, really big potential for a lot of skills, or a lot of strike skills in general, that have maybe fallen behind a little bit, and this is kind of giving melee that extra push that it really needs in order to compete with the bow skills and things like Detonate Dead right now, which are really far ahead. yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, I will see you in the next one with a build guide for Boneshatter.